Health Plans, your Medicare plans, insurance solutions, and resource agency. We have a variety of plans and products that fit your needs, benefit requirements, and budget, with many low or no-cost premium plans, zero co-pays, and much more. Our licensed benefits advisor's priority is your health and well-being. Call us today and book your no-obligation consultation. 1-929-367-5269.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth Radio, the iHealth channel, the Sales World channel, the whole network here with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic. Today, we're going to go into the world of meditation, the world of business, entrepreneurship, and advice on how to kind of navigate and make it through all the hardships or all the difficulties that come with entrepreneurial business, just endeavors, right? And with me, I have someone who does that. So she is a meditation coach for entrepreneurs, all the way from the land down under. So I'm talking again to the future. We just had a nice little joke before the start. So Wendy Nash with me today. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Hurricane. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's you have a lovely warm presence. So thank you for the kind of enthusiasm and kindness that you've already shown and interest in. Already we had like a 5-minute conversation before we came on air, and you've been always so thoughtful and kind in the way that you've interacted. So I really appreciate that. So I wanted to say thank you. And I also wanted to say thank you to our listener who is listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, and really to say thank you to just engage with the idea. Even if maybe you don't get every episode, but some episodes, everything is a contribution. And also, weirdly, even podcasts and interviews you don't like are still part of this same system, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all connecting using the same platforms, the same mics, we're not separate in any way. We're all part of this large system of podcasts and interviews. And since the beginning of time, humans have been sharing stories, talking with each other, wondering how they live and how I live, and what can I take from them, and what can I share. And so it's really, we're all part of an interconnected, long historical part of this. We are not the beginning of this. We're just one place in the middle, because I know that you've had previous guests, and I know there are guests who are coming after me. So I'm just one place in the middle of the whole shebang. So there you go. It's just, I really like to open with that, because we can think it's just us, we're on our own, but really we're part of a huge system. And the second thing I like to do is to recognize, just to acknowledge that I'm calling from an Aboriginal country called Gubbi Gubbi country, which is in Queensland. So I'm just a little bit south, about 1,000 kilometres south of the Great Barrier Reef. And the thing that I think is really important to recognize about Aboriginal societies and cultures, and I'm not Aboriginal, but I really respect a lot of the little that I know. I find is really interesting and thoughtful and creative. And they've been working and understanding and observing this country for 70,000 years, and they've been dealing with a whole lot of different cultures and people and ways of moving in the world. And during that time, they've been sitting there crafting, what do you want to take? What do you want to share going forward? What works, what doesn't? And, the thing that is really different from us white people is that humans aren't the center of the universe. So we are animals in the same way as you have the ocean, the fish in the ocean, and you've got the plants, and you've got the sky and the stars and the rain and the water, and everything is all part of a larger system. And I just really appreciate that. That's that acknowledgement and contribution to care for people, to care for country. And I've thought a lot about my own ancestry. You know, they think a lot about ancestors. I've thought about my own ancestry, and it's English and white. And I go, yeah, basically, we're not very nice people. We've kind of stolen bodies and resources for our benefit, and certainly not for anybody else's. And I also like to say to anybody who is not white, to say sorry for the harm that we have caused, because we have done so much harm and we continue that, and it does nobody any good. So I just want to say sorry. So there you are. Thank you. Thank you, Hurricane, for letting me say that.
Well, no, thank you. And again, big word. Two words, literally huge words. And I think sometimes we miss those words in our lives. And I appreciate that you started with this, because actually literally give me goosebumps, listening to you, because it is powerful. And I think for all audiences, the power of thank you is beyond belief, beyond what we can understand. And it doesn't take much to say that. And it touches the heart, it's really true and real. And it is. We should thank a lot of people for, everybody in your life. You should thank your family, your friends, the world, and there's so many things that we should be thankful for on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for doing that, and for really sharing that message with our audiences. And you mentioned something about the podcast word and the communication. It's a world on its own, literally, and it's evolved over the years. And the purpose of the work that a lot of the people do in the podcast, talk shows and stuff, is really education and enlightenment and inspiration and motivation. Yeah, there's businesses behind it, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, I refer to those shows sometimes as lectures. You get some real lectures out of these things, and some real, stuff that you can take to real world, practice and application. And it's just big. So thank you for that. And I want to also thank you for what you said about the Aborigines, and just the culture and the interaction and the history sometimes that has some sort of an impact, one way or the other. And sometimes we don't do that, where we thank, the natives of the land and highlight, their work and sometimes the atrocities, whatever you want to call it, the bad things that happen over centuries. And it is funny that you said this today, because I'm not sure if you're following the world's FIFA, and in Qatar there's the world soccer cup, football cup, and there was a lot of back and forth discussions about how Qatar is doing, with regulations in terms of certain things. And one thing that came up in the FIFA, president had a speech that he had, with some that he presented, and one thing he said is that we Europeans should actually, we've done a lot in the last 3,000 years, and we should actually probably apologize for the next 3,000 years for things we've done. So it's funny that you said that, because this was, totally like two different events, and, you didn't even realize that, but it's really like the same message that he claimed, or he stated yesterday. I think yesterday it was when he had that statement. But it is powerful sometimes just to bring this to the surface, because You're right. We're humans, and sometimes we forget that we are just part of this whole fabric of Earth and the world and the universe, and we're not really the biggest things on this planet. And sometimes we forget, because of maybe pride, ego, whatever it may be, that there's more powerful things, and we're just a small, minute entity in this wholesome universe. Earth is really a speck, of sand, whatever. It's like a grain of sand in this galaxy and beyond. So. And the majesty of this, when you fly over, land, and then you don't see humans, because you can't even see houses, let alone humans. Then you start like seeing really what our magnitude is. And sometimes that's humbling, where we can just kind of, hey, take it easy. You're not going to be that big, of a deal. We think of ourselves that. And so we got to humble ourselves. We have to be thankful. And so again, thank you so much for that intro. I think that's part of this show, and I think if our audiences take some of that home today, I think we're already in a good place. So that's that. Now let's talk about your work, your background. You help business folks and entrepreneurs and CEOs and just folks that are getting into the business to navigate business, to to be strong during business, but using meditation. So that there's two components there. One is, first of all, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your background, because I know you have psychotherapy, I think, or yeah, you're gonna tell us more about that. And then also you work as a coach to help folks kind of focus. I mean, meditation is big, and there's so many ways to do this. So let's guide us through your background and then the kind of work, and then let's talk about some of the things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, and then some of the issues or the problems or just the challenges that some of the business owners or entrepreneurs can face while they're doing the business, before they start the business, and how they can actually really be ahead of the game and really succeed. So let's start with the background.
All right. Gosh, there was so much in there. I thought, oh, yeah, but we want to talk about what does success mean? And everyone's got an idea about what success means.
I want to hear about that too.
Yeah. So basically, I didn't start off in a particularly easy place. I had tons of stuff to deal with in my own childhood, and I didn't do well at school, but I really wanted to make the best of every opportunity. And I have a kind of jumping in and curious, enthusiastic character. And so I just kind of have taken that everywhere I go. So even though I didn't do well at school, I thought, yep, but I'm going to see what it's like in Europe. I really wanted to find out who I was. So I went to Europe and I lived in England for a while. And then I married my ex-husband who's French, and I came back and I was just still curious about who I was. Even though I had sort of started to understand myself, I still didn't really have that much grounding. But I did start to really pay attention to business leaders that were good and which ones weren't. I did admin for a long time just because I didn't finish school, so there aren't a huge amount of options. But the thing about being an executive assistant and a secretary is you see right up close what is going on when people are good, when they're not, and the games people play. And first up, if anybody is starting a business and you think, oh, well, I'll just, work through this and I know what's going on and I'll hoodwink, let me tell you, no one is hoodwinked in the same way you're not hoodwinked. You're not going to be duped. Why would you do that to other people? So I really saw that, and just different people and how to interact across languages and cultures, and really appreciation for diversity of ideas and how little I knew. So then I came back and I married my ex-husband who's French, and he's a really lovely guy, but I just had so much baggage. So I had this huge journey of self-investigation. And part of that was my own psychotherapy journey, and I did a psychotherapy diploma in order to do that. It was a body-oriented one, and I found it so useful because the more I understood myself, the more I understood other people, and it helped me see where actually I had a capacity to really see people in a way that I hadn't been able to do. The more introspective I became and understanding of my own landscape, the more I realized, I was wrong about people a lot of the time. I thought A, B, C, and turns out they were G, E, F. I was really wrong about so much stuff because I was wrong about myself. And so I took up meditation because I was angry, bitter, hurt, hard, and I have just applied loving kindness to my world. And, I just see the benefits just from small to large. So I've been with my current partner for 2.5 years, and we're just at that point where we're shifting from that place of being in that big love, to the grind of daily life. And I said to him yesterday morning, I just said, I feel so loved. I just feel so loved by you, and I feel, and we are kind of in this love bubble. And it's because what we do is we both say thank you for every single tiny little thing that each other does. And we do raise difficulties, but it's always done with sincerity and kindness. And we go about it in a tender way and a thoughtful way, and we never don't say stuff that needs to be said. We get it right when it's early, so there's no resentment. And because we're sort of appreciative of each other all the time, we just create this really large, beautiful space where we can both grow and develop. And that is the approach that I take, and that's what I see with my clients. So I see with clients, they come to me and they're meditating, and one in particular, he's amazing. He started, and he's been a bit curious, and he was working in an organization, household name here, and he started meditating, and it took ages, like 6 months or something, to get him up to 20 minutes a day. It takes ages to get to a good practice. And then once he did that, he's like, oh, I get it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're really in there. He's doing it every day. And he's like, and then he decided he would go out and he would start his own business. And I was thinking, oh, you're way too soon, because you know what it's like. You have to prep this for a couple of years. You have to have a lot of background and info, and it takes a lot of time, and you have to keep your day job for a long time before you can go into the side, what they call a side hustle, which is a bit aggressive as a word, but your side business. And then it shifts in emphasis. And he went and he was just like, oh man, this is really hard. And he ended up working in the supermarket and because a checkout person and stacking shelves because he had to pay his bills. It was very, very humbling. And I said, okay, so you're on the factory floor, essentially. What do you learn? What can you learn as a leader, somebody who's going to start a business, about what it's like to be at the bottom of the pile, to have every minute monitored, to have all your mistakes, back on you in your face, and have people speaking to you in particular ways, and who are you working with? What is going on in their lives? What do you see are the issues? And he started to really think about that. He worked on his business a little bit, but in the end, it just wasn't working. That organization contacted him and said, we'd like you to apply for a 1-year contract job. And he's come back with the meditation, the self-awareness, the awareness of what it's like to work at the bottom, how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And then he's just like this rising star. And I'm like, okay, what you need to work out here is how you're going to deal with the politics, because you're going to have people getting knives in your back because you're a rising star. They're going to want to cut you down. Let's talk about politics, how to navigate politics. So that's just one particular example, but I find that such a good example of when people really take on board the meditation, the benefit, and the more he's aware of himself, the more of he's kind of gaining confidence. He's not arrogant. He's not cocky. Absolutely not. Kind of the opposite. He's very, very humble, but he's really curious about who he is and how to interact with people. So I hope I have answered your question.
There's plenty in there. And I'd like to just, kind of break it down a little bit. So first things, thank you for sharing your background, your story. And in itself, that is actually a learned lesson for a lot of audiences today. I mean, you're clear about your beginnings and things that you've had and not had, and you work through your own person, and regardless of the challenges, you were able to turn that around and take it and make a positive outcome from it. And that's actually I think a core message for our audiences is that no matter what life gives you at any given point, there's always a chance to come back. There's always a chance to improve and to turn it for the better. And I love what you said about, where you started using kindness in your world. And I think that's also something that's becoming a little bit less and less available these days, unfortunately. And I think it's time to bring some of that, to the world. And hopefully, again, some of these shows can bring some of that positivity and some kindness in the world. but just reminding people that it's okay. It's beautiful to be kind, and it's beautiful to be kind to yourself, to be around. And again, just to thank you. You said earlier that's just in its own a big deal, and it changes the dynamics of how you operate and how you work. It's just how you talk to people. Sometimes I just today I had an interesting, event that happened, an incident. It was not an incident. So I parked and I went to grocery shopping, and I go to this parking lot. And so there is, I know how to park my vehicle. So I just pulled and I know this area. So they have these air stations where you can actually inflate your tires. So, but it's only 2 units and it's on the other side. So I park, this guy comes out and he wants to give me the advice that I would be towed. But instead of him calling me and says, hey, sorry, I think this is not a good spot to, like, that's how I always said it. Like, this is maybe not, I'm not sure, but you might have a problem. Maybe you got to ask somebody. He says, well, you can't read, you can't park there. This is not a parking spot. They're going to get, you're going to get towed. I'm like, well, I can read, but I don't see anything to read. It's like, well, it's here. I was like, well, there's nothing on this side, So it's amazing, like how he wanted to do a good gesture. He went about it the wrong way. It was more insulting than actually resolving anything, because he could have done it just the way he would have said it. Would have been like, oh my God, I appreciate you. But I didn't appreciate anything about him because it was really condescending. And the way he said it, he was like pompous, and he thought he was doing a good thing. That's what annoyed me the most. I mean, you try to do a thing, or you're just trying to be funny. You're trying to be like, the one that makes a difference. And sometimes that's the point. I mean, talking about kindness, you can help people, but not, hurting them, or by not being condescending to them, or not, talking down to them. You don't know. And first of all, when you said to someone, can you read? No, I'm illiterate. I don't know how to read. And maybe I can speak in a different sign language. I don't know. I mean, you assumed already that all that stuff, Now, here's the thing. I mean, I have a press plate and I could park there no matter what. That's one. Second of all, I parked. I know it's a correct parking, but the reason I'm bringing this example is because talking about kindness, I mean, it's a complete stranger, doesn't know you. He's already making assumptions about you. And the first thing he wants to do, you thought he was going to do the right thing, but he just went all around the wrong thing. And sometimes is what we do versus, what we say versus, how we say things can make a big difference. And so again, you talked about kindness. It changed the dynamics. You talked about you and your partner and how you guys have this nice model of discussion where it's all based on being positive, based on mutual respect and kindness and thankfulness, and all that makes a difference, and I think that's the thing. And then you talked about the example of one of your clients, and I love that example because that's an example I personally can relate to. I've been there. I can literally speak to those levels from the top to the bottom and back to the top. And it is a situation where some people may not have to gone through it because not everybody goes through it. But if you're in a career path, no matter what, you're right. There's so many things that can happen. And there's a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of politics. And we're going to talk about that now. There's a lot of people that when they see you going and making the right moves, they don't like it. They'll make all the trouble and make it their business actually to get you, out or whatever and go, against you. So there's all those things. And I love when you said something about when you were an admin and you can see things, you can notice leadership styles and some people who have power trips versus some people very humble, and it's a big deal. We hear this all the time. People don't leave jobs, they leave managers or bosses, right? And so it is real and people don't realize that. It's just how you talk to people. Not everybody in a position sometimes is really fit for that position. They might have a role, but they don't know how to do it. And the biggest part about any role is personal touch, is like how you handle the people that work with you, not for you. That's the other thing. I'm in the personal belief that no one works for no one. Everybody works for themselves. And yeah, we do share a job and we have different titles based on whatever our opportunities and, our maybe expertise and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, no one's better than anybody or the other person. It's just a matter that, I refer to it in my world like ranks, everybody's got a different rank, and so based on experience, it's like, you're military type, and, you're a colonel or you're a general, whatever. So that means you have a little bit more, chips, but those chips are earned by experience, not because you're better, than me in a personal level, right? Your expertise makes you better, in that ranking, but not human wise. We all equal. And I think that's a different, a view and perspective when you talk, in business. I mean, I have been in leadership for over 20 plus years, literally 25 years. And I can state it this way. And I'm very happy to say that I hope that I've never rubbed someone the wrong way, and I still have a good relationship with all types of folks that I've worked with, whether they report to me or I report to them, or I actually, partner with them. Now, of course, there's always one or two folks that may not, connect with you, and that's okay. And, there's no problem with that. I actually respect everybody, because even the ones that kind of did something that was not appropriate to me, I appreciate that, because of them, I learned a lot. Because of them, I was able to actually take that and apply, to your point, what I did not want happen to me, I make sure that it's not happening to other people. So that's important. And then the idea of starting a business that you talked about, most people think like, oh, it's an easy thing. Well, it is as easy as difficult as you want it to be. It's easy, yes. Anybody can start a business. You can just incorporate or whatever and start something, right? Buy stuff or create a service and do it. But dealing with what comes with it, the pressures, the stress, the financial stuff, the human factor, especially if you have to recruit and stuff. Recruiting itself can be a challenge. A lot of stuff can be available to you that can really, really hurt everything. And if you're not prepared well enough, mentally and physically, he will challenge you, and you probably will give up and stuff. But the example you gave about your client is that he experienced all different levels, and the fact that he had to go back to the floor. And by the way, when I say I relate to it, I've been there, where I had to restart, from a top, position to an entry position type. I've even, gone literally off, and there's a time where I had to work literally in a supermarket, back in the days. And there was nothing wrong with that. But you see how people are. And sometimes with a small title, people will become, so pompous and so power, driven and things like that. And and when you realize, because I the way I realized it eventually, that some people are just shallow and they don't have a big vision, and that's all they know. And because you give them, and I think that's the worst part about any leader or any position of leadership, when you give someone a title and an authority, it's how to manage that. And most of the time they lose themselves in that title or that particular role. I'm like, I got this, I'm the boss, I'm this. At the end of the day, you're the boss of no one when everybody leaves you. But as an experience for someone who actually goes through it, it is humbling, and you appreciate everybody. You appreciate everybody, from the person that is just starting to that person that's on top, and there is no difference. It's just a matter of doing the work. And again, you have a role and you got to do your job. But what I love about what you stated is that the meditation that you've introduced is something to really kind of get people to settle, to actually really put their foundation together, and that is not easy. Now, I can tell you, I have not tried. I do different types of meditation, if you want to call it. Not, and I'm not sure the meditation format that you use, but I mean, I do like martial arts, and I do some that kind of thing, like Zen or whatever. So I do some stuff, but it's not really your formal meditation. I've even tried hypnosis. So I've done a lot of things, but so I want you first. I just wanted to break that down. That was a whole piece here. But now let's break down the meditation protocols that you use. Any format, any particular background. Is there anything specific about it, and how does it work? That and then of course, what would be a good time frame for someone to really master it? Because you said it's not easy and it takes time to actually develop into it.
Mastering meditation. Yeah, well, that's, when I would say the Dalai Lama probably has mastered it, but I'm just not so sure about anybody else. I don't even know what that word means. So, we have this idea that we're here, and then, one day when I sit down and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to get good at it. And kind of you don't ever get good at it. You just get less bad at it, maybe, or you haven't, I don't even know if that's true. I think I would say you become aware of what is going on. So it's more that you start from, wow, my mind is crazy busy, and therefore I can't meditate, which is the starting place. And so therefore I'm going to never do this again because I can't meditate because my mind is crazy. So that's a pretty common place to start, and that's a line that I often hear. But it's more that is an initial place to start. But even there, you can see that actually I'm going to become aware of the mind. So it really, what's important is to engage with the fact that the mind is wild. And my style is to, my feeling about that voice, which is really kind of full on and intense, is, first up, I call it the opinionated mind. Some people call it the ego, but I'm just like, you should do this and you should do that. Like my mind's just going, oh, you're hopeless and you're useless. And I don't think I am any way, shape or form on my own on that one. But so what I do when it gets really full on and busy is I just kind of go, oh, what's the emotional quality to this voice? Because, when you're listening to a friend or you're in a cafe and you hear someone speaking, you go, yeah, they sound really upset, actually. So it's more like, so there's a quality that's emotional here. What is the emotional quality? And once you kind of stop that kind of crazy mind and go, what's the emotional quality here? Then A, it stops the mind going kind of crazy, and B, it means that the mind, the opinionated mind, so that stops going crazy. And then this awareness has a sort of, which is the witnessing mind, has a chance to speak. Because for as long as the opinionated mind is going nuts, that awareness voice, which is soft and gentle, but really clear, it just needs space to come up. And so it's working with the opinionated mind and the spacious mind, the aware mind. That's the juxtaposition to work with. So I like to call meditation training the mind. I mean, that's very clearly out of the Tibetan tradition. And so there are kind of three, I'm going to like a little pyramid. So the foundation of meditation, or I guess Buddhism, I'm Buddhist, so this is it, is the ethical position. Basically, if you're behaving in a shitty way, you can never calm the mind, because if you do something a bit off or unclear or a bit skullduggery or just a bit funny, your mind gets really haunted by that. The aware mind starts to go, you were a bit dodged there, actually. So you can't ever have a clear mind, a calm mind. So I'm not going to use clear mind because that gets a bit funny. People think that means no thoughts. You can't get a calm enough mind, because you can't get a kind mind, because there's a part of you which is going, you were a baddie. So ethics is really important, and that's a kind of a large topic, ethics. But basically, look for any act of kindness or care or softness or warmth coming your way, and allow yourself to receive that. And then you will feel good about who you are. And then you will behave in a way that is gracious to others. So like you said with your parking gentleman, he was a bit off. And, sometimes my partner's sharp with me, and I skip the sharpness because I know that he's not intending it. I just really focus on what the message is. Okay, so he's feeling a bit frazzled, or he's feeling irritated by whatever it is. So I just go, okay, I'll leave him to it, or, can I help, or whatever. So the foundation is ethics. So how well are we receiving other people's gestures of kindness? How thoughtful are we in how we respond to that? How much care do we respond? How graceful are we in how we respond to that? And then using that. And then you can start to train the mind in being aware of its responses. The more kindness we receive from others, it's like a bed of, a soft cushion, like lying on a a really beautiful hayfield in a way, with the sun coming in when you do that. And that allows you to start to, when you're in that good space, you're held so well that it allows you to take on some of the things that you're not doing well, actually, ways that you're unkind. So I've had conversations, what is meditation? Mm-hmm. And so if you're okay, I'll just address that.
Yeah, please.
Yep. So one person said to me, my form of meditation is to walk along the beach. I'm like, I'm going, yeah, that's just relaxation. That's going for a lovely stroll. There's no training of the mind in it. There's no kind of awareness of what is going on in the mind. There's no witnessing of what is the crud or the good stuff, what's quality of the mind. That's just kind of having a nice time. Mm-hmm. Somebody else said, my kind of meditation is to read a book. I was like, well, that's lovely. It's relaxation. That's very lovely. But it's not meditation because you're not training your mind. You're learning a lot, like podcasts, and going, yeah, actually there's some stuff I can learn about how to interact with people. So novels particularly are very, very good ways of becoming a better person. So the more novels you read, the more creative you are in the ways that you respond to the world. So there you go. Somebody else said, my form of meditation. So what about this? I'm in a bad mood and I play the piano for a couple of hours. I get out at the end of it, I feel so much better. I'm like, that's great. That's flow. That's not meditation, because all you're doing is getting into this bad space, and I suppose it's calming the body, but it's not really got that mind training. You're not going, what was it that arose before that made me in that bad mood? And then he also said, I was driving along and I started this thing where I'm driving along and I see a guy and he's like, and I used to get really angry, what are you doing on the road, you idiot, you dickhead? Ah. And he was like, and then he decided he was not going to do that. He was just going to sit there and go, you know what, you go first. Now that is meditation. It's just in every moment. And you don't have to sit still for 20 minutes and do this clear of the mind, whatever that means. He's going, I'm kind of an ass when I'm on the road, and I don't want to be one of those shitty old guys who's just screaming at everybody on the road or screaming at the television. I'm going to change the way I do this. And so I'm going to be aware that every time somebody does something that basically pisses me off, I'm going to hold back. So there's restraint there. And I'm going to let them go first. Now, for other people who perhaps have more tendency to be restrained, actually they might say, I'm going to speak up for myself. I'm going to express myself. Instead of my automatic response is to hold back, I'm actually going to come forward. So it's to observe, I can feel myself pulling back. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come forward. And then there are some other people who tend to put everybody first and struggle to find delight in their own world because they're just putting everybody first. They're caring for everybody. Their bodies are all falling apart. They're not living well. They're sort of quite a passive aggressive style. Mm-hmm. And for those people, it's really important to kind of go, actually, I need to take care of myself. And I can feel I'm starting to get a bit passive aggressive or feel a bit burdened and I'm enduring this or whatever it is, and to go, I need to actually become more aware of what's going on and say no. I'm going to say no to that, actually. I heard something and it was like, a no is better than a no-show. I thought that's perfect for those people. So it's all about changing the habit of what you usually do and kind of doing the opposite.
So Wendy, I'm listening to you, and just, it's funny because when I said I do some meditation, I was referring to like relaxation. I guess that was it. I mean, in martial arts, they train you like where you just, sit and just kind of like close your eyes and kind of just, try your mind. But this is beyond that. This is like literally like, having a a focused mind, literally, like, and understanding what your levels are, and you are in control. Because that's the thing. I think most of us are not in control. I mean, we think we're in control, but we just lose the cool quickly. It's like all it takes is one trigger. It's like, but someone that's completely like, anchored into the ground, they're just like, okay, sure. And, it's funny you mentioned the Dalai Lama and Buddhism and stuff. That's one trait about, the monks, for example. They're very zen. I mean, you can't get them to even get emotions. I mean, they're just like, sure. I mean, you have to be at a certain level of really awareness to actually be able to do that. Most of us probably cannot do it without practice, or at least get it into the system and understanding what it means to get there. And let alone when you're in business, you're going like 200 miles an hour. And the last thing you have in your mind is like you take a minute and just to kind of like reconfigure your brains. It doesn't work that way, because you're like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. And then you have issues, you have people, you have emotions going. So it's like everything is happening, and it's like all your brain is like, firing up these synapses are like, just like, the messages are going left and right. It's like, there's like a thunderstorm going on, but this is like the opposite. This is like almost like there is no storm in there. You just like, nice. And, at least that's what I'm getting from the vibe, is like to understand. And then you're removing the negativity, you're removing anything that's bad, that's triggering your emotions and your reaction. And you're just like, huh. And then also taking responsibility, I guess. Because when you said something about being aware, because that starts with that. I mean, if I'm driving, I'm like, every time I'm like, I know that I'm the one who's making noise. And, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm just going to, please go. That's being aware of like, something, but being aware is a whole different process, because that's where you got to be, at least you have to ask the question. How many people ask the question? Like, am I wrong? Did I, believe it or not, today with that incident, I had to question myself. Did I overreact? Did I react the wrong way? Was that wrong? Was that right? And I kind of like, try to, maybe I could have handled it differently, but the guy just kind of rubbed it the wrong way, and he just didn't have a good approach about it. And I didn't do anything to him. I was just like, whatever, get away, that kind of thing. But I could have probably even ignored him. But so he got to, to press a button that, sometimes, you're in the wrong place, the wrong time, and he just like something, and it just triggers. So your world of meditation really, teaches, someone to actually kind of stop and really revamp their mind, revamp the way they feel, they think, and they approach things. So what would be a process for someone, for example, watching today or listening? How long will it take them to actually get into a moment where they can really, really do this? And I know we're not mastering this. It's probably not, not achievable to the common folk here, but at the end of the day, it's something that we will thrive for, because I think everybody want to be in that position where they can have, mastery or control of emotions and the mind, and be clear about what they want when they do it. And no matter what faces them, nothing phases them. You know what I mean? So it'll be like, okay, like, sure. Like that's the other thing. Like we see this in, I watch a lot of movies that have to do with disaster or catastrophe and stuff. And the reason I watch those, because I actually analyze the reactions. Now, these are all scripted movies, but I start asking the question, am I going to be this one? Or am I going to be this one? Am I going to be the one that's going to do this? And so I use that for me. And then also like to see like how people sometimes behave, in their certain circumstances, because people can go nuts. I mean, we talked about how we feel that we are the ego part, right? And so that's a challenge. But when you look at that, you're like, sometimes you have to like question things. And am I that person? Will I be the bad guy or the good guy? Or the villain or the actual good? It is hard sometimes to actually, and most of us don't ask questions. We just live and do. And to take a step back and just kind of like concentrate and start, zoning in and figuring out ourselves, that is a difficult task. So someone comes to you, what's that process? And what is a good way to determine that they've achieved some level?
Gosh, you like, like, so I'm going to there's a couple of things in there I want to say. So one is, you talked about being completely frantic, and, pulled in all different directions, and you don't have time, and the Dalai Lama says, people say, how long should I meditate for? And he says, well, generally I say 30 minutes. By the way, 30 minutes for a beginner is way too long. Start with 5. Even that, I'd say start with 1 minute. I have people who have been doing 3 minutes for 6 months, so hard for them to get to 4 minutes, 5 minutes. It takes a lot of the body has to calm down, the mind has to calm down. So 30 minutes. And he said, but if you don't have time, an hour is required. And so that's counterintuitive. But what he's saying is you're really not using your time wisely. You're kind of reacting to everything. You're not responding to the world. You're not thinking ahead. You're not engaging with things as they are small. You're kind of reacting, and your mind is very raw, I guess, untrained, I guess. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't have it here, but because I normally have 2 vases, but I'll just go with one. I'll just do 2 things. So one is, here, this is a jug, a water jug, a pitcher, I think in American you call it, and it's quite pretty. It's got little dots and flowers and blue things. A friend gave it to me several years ago. And so here's my question to you. Does the jug, the pitcher, does that cause your feelings?
It does.
Okay, so right. So here is the main issue, because actually it's your own body, your own mind, your own awareness, the way you see the world, the way that you have kind of imagine beauty is, or attractiveness is. But it's your body, it's your mind that is reacting to something that is very neutral. So, and now I'm going to hold up, I'm just moving house. So my usual props aren't usually here, but I'll see if I've got something. I've got this thermos flask because I drink 2 liters of water a day. So imagine this is really, really ugly. Okay. And so now, this ugly thing, does this ugly thing cause your feelings?
Potentially.
So it triggers them. So what it is, in the beginning, you get something that's, you've got a new car or whatever it is, and you're like, wow, I love my car. And then, you drive down the street and you look at somebody else and it's like, oh, I wish I had that car. And suddenly your own car looks a bit dingier, a little bit less glamorous, whatever. Now, the car has not changed. All that has changed is that your way of understanding, your mind, your body is looking at exactly the same thing. Like we're talking, 1 minute later. So the car isn't damaged or anything like that. It's no different. But you see the other one, you go, my one's not so good anymore. And so you can say, well, it's now an ugly car. But actually, it hasn't caused your feelings. It's your mind that is there. And just to respond to that thing, you watch disaster movies. And a couple of things out of that, be careful about what you watch, because it's a bit like eating junk food. Your food, you can eat Macca's and KFC and all this stuff, but it's really bad for you. And all you're going to end up is a lot of cardiovascular disease and diet 50, so don't eat that shit. But in the same way, just be careful about what you're ingesting in terms of the world. And does it make you feel like you're kinder? The world around you is kinder. People are more thoughtful. Now, I don't need an answer on that, but it's worth investigating and inquiring about what good is this doing to my mind? So I just put that there, like watching the news. It's good to watch the news, be aware. Do you need to watch people screaming at each other? No, you can get news other ways. There's a great website called The Conversation, and it gives all these academic perspectives on contemporary issues. So you don't get that vitriol, but you get the content. So that's a little heads up on that. But I think there is a Navy saying, and it says, you behave in a crisis, you behave according to your level of training, not to your level of education, something like that. So if you want to figure out how are you going to respond, as in that emergency, whatever, as you go down the street, pay attention to so when you're driving along and there's a near miss, an incident, and there's a near miss and you just swerve slightly or someone swerves into your lane, how do you respond, actually? And in that moment, that's where the training happens. And you can think about it. And people always think they're better drivers than they are. I'm a big anti-car advocate, just activist here, just me. So I'm just giving you a heads up on this. I do tons and tons of research into traffic and why people think they're good drivers when they're really not. And it turns out that it's because I'm a good driver. It's them who's the bad driver. Why not this one? Anyway, so the reason is that all those times when you change lanes and nothing happens, you correct and you think you're good. Or the times when the traffic slows and you stop in time, you think you're good. But actually, what it is that you aren't aware of all the times when you have a lot of near misses. So that's my little car advocacy thing. So you think you're a good driver, but chances are you're probably not, because people always overestimate their capacities. We think we're really good when really a lot of the time we're wrong. We're stupid. We do dumb things. We think something's going to happen and it doesn't. So anyway, I'm hoping I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And as a matter of fact, thank you, because I love what you said, because we all have that whole feeling that, we're the perfect, entity, and there's our stuff doesn't stink. You know what I mean? Everybody else is wrong and we're always right. And I love that, because once you're aware, you do realize that is not the case. Sometimes it is us, and it's always starting with us, no matter what. We put ourselves in positions. To your point, if I didn't want to acknowledge the dude today, I could have done that. I could have just walked away and nothing happens. I wanted to make a point, but was it really the point? It was no point. And you realize that like a minute, like what's the point? I mean, he triggered it. So just an example, but this is something that happens all the time. But that's the thing. Like, we have to be aware of things. Whether the card, you mentioned something about you have something that's valuable. The minute that you see something else, that value is overdone. It's just your mind. But that didn't devaluate. It's just that now you see something different, and so your mind's playing tricks on you. But again, you talk about awareness. That's really what it starts. Most of us may not be aware. We're like almost zombies. I refer to it as such because we're really like in the zone hypnosis type of thing. And we're just following the dynamics of life. And we're not taking a minute, to breathe and just like sink in all in. And that's, I think, a big problem for all of us, and most of us who have not taken the time to exercise. And I love what you said about 3 minutes. I mean, of just pure, reflection and just, being you and aware. I think it takes a minute. Probably is going to be hard just to do that, just to really start thinking about yourself and just eliminating some of the stuff and see how you can react with difference. It is tough, and it's going to take more and more for people to actually get there. So I know we have a very, high time. So a couple of things before we close. What would be some of the advice to some of the business owners or business, I guess, people that want to start a business, or people that want to start a business in general, or they're starting, or they're just in a position, how they can really maximize their creativity and get the best out of themselves using meditation, or the power of meditation?
So there's a question that I always think is really useful, which is, what am I not seeing about this? Somebody, like I had an interaction with somebody yesterday, and I just thought, I've been having this relationship with this person. It's not somebody I see all the time. It's just somebody who comes into my life periodically. And I just get always rankled by her. And I'm just like, what am I not seeing about that? What am I not seeing about her? What am I not seeing about me? What am I not seeing about the interaction, about the dynamic that's created? Once I understood that, I was like, now I know what's going on. So whenever it kind of bumps up, I'm just like, I know what that is. I don't have to do anything, but like your car, your parking guy, he just rattled me. So that's one. What am I not seeing about this? With all your problems, with anything you're about to go into, somebody you meet, somebody you feel like maybe they're a bit dodge. Are they being honest? What am I not seeing about this? This is a really good question. The other one is, if you've got somebody who, I would always encourage people to look particularly with staff, it can be really easy to get a bit judgy. You haven't done this, you haven't done that. So I like to go, we have conversations and situations in work that are we need to be straight with people. You can't just be good or bad. So I like this framework. I find it really, really good with people. What are you doing that's good? What are you doing that's bad? What is unknown here? What is here going on, maybe in your world, that is making it not work? Or maybe what else is going on? And it could be they don't feel like they have enough information, and maybe that's why they're underperforming. They may be having a whole lot of stuff going on at home. They may just feel really nervous and feel insecure about whether they've got the skills and stuff like that. But if you don't ask that question, you don't know. So what's good? What's bad? What else is in here? What is unknown? And what's the overall picture? Where do we go to from here? And I think if you just do that, those two things, look for kindness. Always look for kindness. Some people come with such good hearts and intention. There are some people who are shits, Jeff Bezos, he's not sitting there going, how much can I share and give to the world? When he started, I think his ex-wife has kind of showed him up big time. So he's kind of caught out there. But yeah, so she really highlighted to him how mean and stingy he is, actually. And so his conscience is pricked, and he's just been given a whole lot of money to Dolly Parton. So it's just interesting to kind of see, if you're good behavior, we want to be kind. We just need to find a way to be kind. And every time you cut someone down, it's no good. So be sincere. Be kind. And if you are sincere and kind, you can kind of say anything to anyone. But if you're tricky or you're sneaky or you're brutal with yourself, with others, it's like that's a crash and burn in all aspects, actually. So that's what I would say. That's my advice. It's probably a lot of advice.
There is a lot, actually. So, usually we end the show with the piece of advice, and I think we have plenty there. But just before we end today, and first of all, I want to thank you again. We'll start with a thank you. We'll end with a thank you for everything. I think we had so much powerful stuff that we have taken today. Wish we had more time. But you do the work worldwide, I'm assuming. So you do these sessions through Zoom and otherwise. How can our audiences reach out to you if they need further, assistance and maybe to help them practice, their meditation and really apply that into their real world?
Sure. So the business is called Kindly Cut the Crap. So I am straight down the line. But it's kindness is really like, I used to be so brutal and hard with myself and hard with others, and that still is there. But I remember I've just got to always be kind. So kindlycutthecrap.com, that's the website. And if you sign up, you can get a PDF with 5 meditations to do on the go. And I have no idea how any of it works. So I think it goes into MailChimp, and that's the end of you won't get any spam from, I don't sell it because I don't know even how that even works. So you just do that. My web guy knows how all that works. And I also have a thing at the moment. I don't know if it's up yet. I haven't checked the website today. But if you want to have a meditation tailored for your need, then just put in your request and decide on 5, 10, 15 minutes what you would like. And then I'll just create a meditation for you, for your need, your wish. And I'll just put it up on my website to kind of create a large library. So there's that. And just to say thank you very much for your time. And I work online, as you said. And I think that's it. Did I answer every question?
Yes, you did. And again, we will have description of your site on your link to the site on the description of the show, so people can actually reach out to you, because I think there's a lot of value there besides, those things that are available. I think for, some people may need more work and assistance, on a long, term. So we'd love to actually share that. I mean, again, this is about you and your value that you're bringing to the world. So keep up the great word and, the work and the word that you're actually putting out there, across podcasts and other type of forms. And, for me, I mean, I enjoyed this chat, and I know you have hard stop now, so I'm not going to keep up any further. So Wendy, thank you so much for being with us, and for the time that you spent with us, folks. Thank you for being with us today, for watching, listening, and hope that this show does bring you a lot of new things that you can apply in real life, and hopefully make you better at whatever you do, and more successful. Again, we didn't get to the definition of success. Maybe our next one we'll discuss that.
It's a peaceful heart. There you are. If you've got a peaceful heart, everything will just feel successful.
And with that, we will conclude our show today. Thank you so much, folks. We'll talk soon. New day, new show, new topic, new guest. Bye for now.
Thanks, Hurricane.